Good evening. You're listening to Ripon Common Sense Radio. Thanks for joining us live. The broadcast will begin in just a few moments. If you are listening on YouTube, please say hello in the chat or the video comments below. The program will begin shortly.
Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Let's do it. Good evening on a special Monday, September 27th, the fourth Monday of the month, and the first ever Common Sense Council live show. Tonight, perhaps a radio first, an opportunity to challenge authority. I guess that's the end of the music, Jerry.
Sounds like it, my friend. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, AJ.
Hi.
How are you doing today, bro?
Good. Now, this is one of those moments where we literally did a completely improv show. There was very little planning on this, and we're going to explain to you listening tonight exactly what's happening. As it happens, you're going to be along for the ride, and that's probably the fun part, perhaps. So I am AJ, the Ripon Rabbit.
And I'm Jerry, the Dark Wolf.
And together we are Jerry and AJ, and it's the wolf that lays down with the rabbit tonight for some political
the animals of radio.
That's right, the animals of radio. I don't know what sound a rabbit makes, but I know what sound a wolf makes. Give us your signature howl.
Howl, yeah.
The animals of radio have begun. That's right. Let's go ahead and look at, okay.
So what we have tonight is an incredibly important topic. You guys know if we go live, especially as improv as this is right now, you can guarantee that it's going to be of utmost importance, and tonight is none the less different.
Now, importance to the small little 7,000 population community of Ripon, Wisconsin, but importance to all of us across the nation that value our freedoms and value the way that the system supposedly is set up. So
I would even dare say across the world right now.
That's true. Jason M. Starr, great to have you along for the ride with Al Viotter and Michael Fontaine up there. Here's what's taking place. There is going to be a city council meeting in Ripon, Wisconsin that's going to start at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we are going to attempt to cover that broadcast or cover that meeting live as accordance to open meeting rules and laws. It should be available to us. We should be able to monitor the city council meeting live via
as a public meeting. We have freedom of the press, right? We have the freedom of the media to actually be able to attend this meeting and report on it as necessary, correct?
Correct. And the general public should at very least be able to watch it live. Okay? That's a big thing. Now, let's see here. I'm trying to get my my text off the screen. There we go. So that, okay. Jerry, if you could keep an eye on the chat room just to make sure that I don't miss something, because I am trying to manage what we've got
I completely
here.
understand. I know how it is when you are on the running end of these things. A lot of running parts and moving working pieces there. So, yeah, I definitely got the chat locked down. Jason said he's glad to be here, and we are glad to have you and everyone listening, both on YouTube and across the radio airwaves. Once again, very important night. We're going to try to bring a little transparency where transparency needs to be, using the rights of the freedom of the press.
Well put. Well put. I couldn't have said that better myself, Jerry. Okay, so I think I've got it up. This is the City of Ripon channel on YouTube, and they publish meetings, okay? And you can see that the most recent published event that they actually did was a high school football, which took place against Port Washington, and it was streamed a week ago. And if we go to their videos, we can see that they do a lot of streaming over there on the Ripon channel. And, you know, nothing is shy of streaming in accordance to the way it should be. The
Agreed.
historic preservation meeting was streamed a month ago.
So do they normally stream the city council meetings and meetings of that type?
Correct, except for this one, which took place on 9/14, okay, which I'm going to stop there so that we can look at this. This one was not streamed on 9/14. Instead, it premiered on September 15th. Interesting, huh?
Now, that is odd. Why would you want to take over a day to put this information out? Did you see any anomalies in this when you went through it?
Well, other than the description of the video. Let's look at that. So this is the City of Ripon, Wisconsin latest meeting of the Common Council, recorded live on September 14th, 2021. When we show more, I know you probably can't see my screen, Jerry, but when we show more, the only subject for this council meeting is mask policy, comma, vaccination policy, period.
Now, what an interesting topic to choose not to stream live.
Exactly,
Of
right?
all the city council meetings there is, of all the ones that just happen to have a chance to be missed, what an interesting topic to accidentally miss, right?
Right? I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. It's like, why did it not go live on this night? Number one, why did we have to premiere it the next day? And I'm going to adjust the screen so you can see the date here, 9/14, right? When they're talking about such an important subject as mask policy and vaccination policy, right?
Right.
But
It's almost like they didn't want the public to be aware that
maybe,
would be this particular meeting.
maybe. But if you go to the city of Ripon, now the city of Ripon is a small 7,000 population community. It is no different than most of your communities at home. Okay. You can find your city website, and according to your local community, you should have a website that is very similar to the Ripon, Wisconsin city of Ripon.com. And on there should be your agendas and minutes for all of your different departments, from Planning Commission to Public Works Committee to Board of Review to even City Council. When you go to City Council, that should give you your agenda and your minutes for all the meetings. So in this case, if I choose Agenda 21, I'm going to see a list of all the agendas that are available, including tonight's September 27th meeting and September 14th as well. Now, when I click back, if I go to minutes, then I can see a list of all of the results of those meetings. That needs to be publicly available and accessible.
Absolutely.
That's part of the...
Absolutely, for transparency purposes, so everybody in the city can know what went on in their city council meeting. That is absolutely mandatory, if I'm not mistaken.
It is actually that the agenda is publicly available. In some places, a due time frame is important. So you have to publish this 24 hours before the meeting in some cases, which is very important too. But let's look at the September, I pulled 27th. Let's look at the 14th, the date in question. Last Tuesday, 2 Tuesdays ago, the way that the city of Ripon runs their meetings, they do the second Tuesday of every month, and they do the fourth Monday of every month. Hence, if this show turns into a series. So here was an action item published on the agenda for the 14th. Action item 1, masking in City Hall and city buildings. Staff note, due to the rising levels of COVID-19 in the community and region, a request was made to consider a masking policy for the public entering City Hall and other city buildings. Very vague. Wouldn't you agree?
Extremely vague. It doesn't even leave any. I don't even see anything in here about exemptions that are legal, like medical and or religious exemptions being okayed, or people that are disabled and cannot wear a mask.
To be fair, they are in there, and we're going to go through that in just a moment. But before we do, I just want to point out we are now 5 minutes away from a live city council meeting. With this new policy in place, and I do not see any stream available from Ripon's channel that is going to bring us that feed. So we may actually have a live feed from inside. Let's listen closely. I do believe we have a live audio feed. I'm going to go ahead and mute up for this moment, Jerry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was thinking today. I was thinking today.
This sounds like one of our reporters who is attempting to enter the city hall at this moment. He could be maskless.
One would assume that that would be the case. We can't be sure, but that would be an assumption.
We have had no communication, although I'll keep it going as long as my phone stays charged, is the text message that I just received.
Okay. And I don't hear any ruckus going on, so it seems like there's been no issues so far.
There has not been any issues. However, we are moments away, 2 minutes away, and I still do not see a live stream on the Ripon channel, which concerns me. We should be able to see this meeting without having to be connected via phone call of someone in City Hall.
Absolutely. Where's the transparency for these city hall meetings? You should be able to go to any city, in my opinion, when they're having their meetings, and you should be able to pull that up on some type of social or video media where you can watch these things in real time and monitor what's going on in your own city.
Right.
Some people can't even get out of their houses. Some people have no way to really go to these meetings except for to watch them in a digital format.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
So it's actually more of a disservice by not doing that for their constituents.
So let's listen to how they approached this conversation while we wait last month.
In city halls and city buildings. This we just had sample policies for in our packet, correct?
So the city council just had sample policy to look at during this meeting. When they're approving...
Can we dive into that real quick? Like, could you explain just for our audience that may not be familiar with that, even what that term means? What would a sample policy be like?
So the city attorney or the city administrator would normally do their research and would look for other policies in other cities and other counties that they would embrace for verbiage to make the job a little bit easier.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So they were looking at things that had already been put in place in other areas.
Correct.
Okay.
Let's listen now as it's 4:59. I'm going to continue to watch for a stream. Okay, they're calling the meeting to order.
Sounds like everybody's present. That's a good thing.
Here's their Pledge of Allegiance, which will be followed by a prayer.
Reading from the book of Psalms 24. Who shall ascend the hill of the Lord? And who shall stand in his holy place? Those who have clean hands and pure hearts, who do not lift up their foot to what is called.
So they are actually praying at this moment, which is the invocation led by Harash Kashian. Then they will approve the agenda, and then there will be a place for public communications and comment.
Above all nature and created things, yet you care for the least among us. Even the sparrow will not fall on the ground without your notice. We pray for your guidance at this time.
So they're approving the agenda.
And still no live on the channel, it looks like.
Nope. Now public comments.
We do have some public comments. This is not. No action will be taken tonight. I ask that you keep it simple, respectful, and within 5 minutes. However, discussion of personnel or members of the council shall not be permitted. I expect you to be respectful, and in return, I expect the council to be respectful. Before you begin, please state your name and address. First person we have tonight is Carol. Please state your name and address.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Orlando Leeds. I have some questions regarding that mandate, and some of the answers now today. O-R-L-A-N-O-N-I-S.
So we have a public speaker who is up there. And it suddenly went silent. Oh.
No, that's odd. Maybe they're moving positions in the room or something.
Let's make sure we're still not live. There's no live feed.
Yes. So what we are doing here for those who are just joining us is we're trying to listen in on the report in on the city council meeting of Ripon, Wisconsin, Ripon City Council, as they've decided not to do a live stream,
Okay,
and it's important that they have.
This policy or a city ordinance. This policy verbiage can be defined for me. What? Intellectual disability. What about people with intellectual ability? And they also get credit. What happens if I don't comply with this policy? What happens if I do not comply with being asked to leave the building not complying with the public? Will I be trespassed? Can I be arrested? Can I be fined? If so, who do I pay the fine to? How much is it? The questions I have to look for.
Next we have Rob.
So the question he asked, really quick, while they're switching speakers here, it looks like, was if they do not comply publicly with this order or policy that has been put in place by the city council, if the public does not comply, what is the fine? What will the penalty be?
That's a great question. We don't know. There's no answer. Okay, second speaker now.
But with this thing,
can't hear. Cut out
Oh,
again.
We've got a little dead air here. Once again, the question was, what are the penalties going to be? What are they going to do if you don't comply? Are they going to arrest you? Are they going to fine you? To what degree? There's been no
Okay,
answers
he's
given.
back.
It's just
He's
been a
back.
blanket, hey, we'll punish you.
He's back.
What everybody's side is, I don't care. It's who you are as a person, and you should be pleased in yourself. So I'm just simply asking, if you guys did rush it again, and did really think about everything, how am I as a person going to be accommodated? Thank you.
Zemlicka. Well, my name is Scott Zemlicka. I live at N7847 County Road E, just outside of Ripon. I do have land in the city as well. One question I had, well, I have several. The graph that was used in September 14th meeting, that was used to support the approval of this policy. Why was that not included in the September 14th agenda packet and not supplied in the September 14th minutes published? Where did the graph come from? Where can I find it? And what test? And what?
Oh, he cut out. We dropped the call.
So,
He's up at the mic, so let's be quiet.
gotcha.
We dropped the call.
He should come back any second now.
Hopefully. See,
I feel like
we should be able to see.
Ron Reynolds, 648 Watson Street. I just have an issue with the sidewalk repair, and I'm new to all this. The first time I'm here, my wife and I bought it off for less than a year ago. I still might go back to something. I have some before and after photos that are kind of concerning to me. That my wife and I, they said they were sent us a letter saying they're going to fix the sidewalks, which is fine. Now I wasn't aware of the city ordinance.
I'm going to make sure
We're responsible for that.
that they still are not live streaming.
Out there with the sidewalk. Nothing wrong with it. Cracking.
So the question that our reporter just asked is, where is all the information from the last live stream? So it sounds like they have neglected to include all the information the last go round. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, they showed a graph that they used to approve this policy. And the graph was never included in the meeting minutes or the agenda packet. So if it was late or they were waiting for the most recent numbers and they couldn't get it included in the agenda package, then it should have very least been included in the minutes, just to provide transparency.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They should make available that even if they were looking for updated numbers, you need the numbers that were available to them at the time when they made the decision, not an updated version.
The reporters are now leaving the room, and maybe we're going to get Z Rabbit here to speak with us now because the public comments have been closed. And once he steps out of the building, Scott, Z Rabbit, are you there?
Sounds like he's still maybe moving through the hall at the moment.
Because
That was not discussed in the agenda. That was brought under the
Start over again. What'd you say?
You know, September 14th, there was a decision made, okay, of this agenda they approved of this mask day, which they basically substituted one of the counties with the same shit, with the same ordinance, and they just passed it.
For Dane County.
For Dane, right?
Yeah.
And Columbus. By the way.
And this is still live right now.
Yeah, you guys are live. Scott, are you there? Can you hear us? You're with Jerry Hicks and AJ, the Ripon Rabbit. Are you there?
Yep, we're still here.
Okay, so
now we're outside now.
Give us a
welcome, guys.
Were you there wearing masks? Were you in compliance with the policy?
I was in compliance. Orlando was not. He claimed religious exemption. Rob,
and was that religious exemption approved? And was he allowed?
And Rob was in there in non-compliance. Nobody said anything.
Excellent.
So no enforcement of the policy.
No, I said, well, I'm not going to be here very long.
What did Chief tell you? And he's
So they've laid this in place as more of a scare tactic to the public, and they're not actually going to crack down on this. It sounds like from so far.
At this point, no.
Okay.
There was no enforcement.
None.
When you stood up to the microphone, we heard the first part of your question of who do you pay the fine to and what is the fine, and then your phone cut out and we were unable. And at ancillary, the city of Ripon is not streaming this live, so your phone literally was our only connection to democracy in Ripon, Wisconsin tonight.
AJ wanted to know about.
I do also have a hard recording of. We'll see how the audio plays back on that.
Great.
But I do have full audio.
Great.
And it will be unedited.
Perfect. Now, were you able to ask what reasonable arrangements were made prior to, if you were not?
That was my final question. The mayor stood there or sat there.
Oh, I asked it.
Yeah, Rob asked it as well.
Everybody asked it, even me.
When I asked it, I looked directly at the mayor. He looked over to Ludworth's empty seat.
No, Lud wasn't.
Empty seat.
Oh, yeah.
And said, we're not answering any questions at this time.
They don't, because open remarks that they have an agenda already voted upon from the last meeting.
Yeah, but what they voted on in the last meeting was a very specific policy, which includes for the entertainment of the general public when it comes to not complying.
We don't need to answer nothing because it's right. That's the second right there. Throw it to the floor.
Well, that seems, in my opinion only, let me be clear, that seems quite a cowardly move on the part of the city council and the mayor to ignore the question given or refuse to give a answer any further than what's been laid out very blanketly in text.
And Jerry, the reason why is because there is not an answer. It's as simple as that. Guys in Ripon, our boots on the ground, our eyes and our rabbit ears, we take our top hats off to all of you. Z Rabbit, Orlando Rabbit, and Rob Rabbit down there doing what needs to be done.
Absolutely. Top hats off, my friends. I personally want to thank you so much for being boots on the ground and helping us so much every time we have called upon you guys. You've been right there. So very, very much appreciate your hands-on work, guys. We will continue this if at all possible.
And it's disappointing that Ripon is not streaming this meeting at all. Z-Rabbit, we'll let you get back to the ground, but again, hopefully you heard that. We take our top hats off to you.
Yep. Thanks, gentlemen.
They'll re-air it.
Thank all.
Good night.
On the public.
Do you guys have any last words? Do you want to say anything about how it felt to stand up for your rights and freedoms tonight?
Well, AJ, they didn't have the answers. That was obvious. So they were kind of entrapped. Everybody, looking strange. You can tell by the looks of their eyes and this and that. And they were covered, with their mask, so you can't read all the signals. But, they didn't have the answers, because if they did have the answers, we've been all here. They would just say, this mask mandate has been ordained or has been ruled. It's going to go, and there's nothing to answer, no questions to answer later, nothing, because they already have the answer, but they don't.
Correct.
Okay? They don't.
The
That's why they were kind of,
They know it.
Now, Orlando Rabbit, you actually walked into the council chambers maskless tonight, and Z Rabbit told us that you claimed religious exemption. Is that true?
Yes. Yes, we went right through the council. No questions asked. One of the elders did. I told him we have religious exemptions and we feel like we're not going to use it. We're not going to put in nothing, no questions. Nobody said nothing, really. We just went right through Rob.
So let me clarify, if I may, Orlando. I do hope you can hear me. Let me clarify. So nobody actually asked you about your religious exemption. You were just prepared to use it if necessary. Is that correct?
Well, I did use it because, I'm a man of faith. So they need to know that we need to give the glory to God, number one.
Amen.
And they know we mean business. And yes, we are exempt because nobody's going to take this away from us. So I was ready. Yes. They didn't say nothing. I brought it up. Just
so you brought it up then. You did.
Yeah, I threw it out to the floor. Yes.
Gotcha.
Good
for
you.
Yes. Yeah.
And
well done.
Do you feel that you were met with any resistance whatsoever? Did anyone even try to question that, or was that just accepted?
No, I believe there was no resistance at all. I believe they were in awe, like a surprise. They didn't think we have boots on the ground, taking care of this issue and future issues. So now they know what's going on, and we're going to have eyes on them. They know we're watching.
Well, credit for them. I will say this, credit on both sides. They did not escalate the situation at any point in that degree. Neither did you guys. So, credit where it's due. I've seen city council meetings get really crazy here lately.
Yes.
If I can intervene.
Hey, Rob's got something to say.
Yes,
now, too, fellas.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm kind of a thorn in the city's ass because I stand up for everything. And I defended the Little White Schoolhouse from known confirmed attack or destruction of the property, and made awareness that way and brought the community together. And I've addressed many issues, and I really get the feathers ruffled in this town. I think they've actually allotted a separate budget item for the Rob factor because they're always calling me about something. And when I asked how I was going to be accommodated for having medical issue or just flat out not wanting to comply with said mandate, I said that is just what it is a mandate. It's not a law. So how can it be enforced? I said, but how am I going to be accommodated to come to future meetings if I'm not going to wear, for whatever reason, not comply with the mandate? And I know they don't have to answer because it's new business and they have their agenda approved from the last meeting. But the stares that we were getting because we weren't complying, you could see we were getting judged. And then I happened to look back because when I walked in, I have a very good rapport and relationship with the chief. He did whisper to me, he says, you do know that there's a mandate. And I said, well, I'm not going to be in here very long anyway, and I'm not going to comply either way. When I got done speaking, I turned around and looked and sat down. I saw that there was a officer on duty sitting there, which I've never seen an officer on duty at any council meeting ever.
Wow.
So even they were prepared for something may or may not have
happen, yeah.
Well, we were ready to go to jail if that was the case, even, you know?
When you stand for your rights and you do what's right, you take whatever punishment they attempt to give.
We couldn't hear you. A truck went by. What's that?
I said when you stand for your rights, no matter what they try to punish you with, when you stand for your rights, it doesn't matter. You know what's right. Whatever punishment they try to give. Speaking of rights, something I want to bring up real quick. Their policy is to wear a covering. However, what does the state law say that may?
There isn't. There is. Wisconsin no longer has a state law mandate, so that doesn't exist. But to go back to something that Rob said just a moment ago, the reality is that they were not prepared for that moment, but yet at the same time prepared and had an extra officer there on duty.
Right.
But the reality is that he asked the absolute right question, and all of them did, and that is, how are you going to accommodate me in the open law of Wisconsin for open meeting law? There has to be this type of accommodation. And because they could not accommodate that at that moment, they had to allow these gentlemen to sit there maskless in the Common Council. They had no enforcement because, as he points out, it is not an ordinance, it's not a law, it's a policy.
Exactly.
That's it. So my top hat's off to you, Rob, Orlando, and Scott for doing what you did tonight in the name of freedom.
Thanks. I appreciate your support, but I'm a former Marine, and I consider myself a very patriotic individual. That I wear this on my shoulders daily, just seeing how the division of our community and family and friends that it's gotten this bad, and it's terrible.
It really is. And
now I went on fact checker, or excuse me, I went on DuckDuckGo to look up how Dr. Fauci did a huge study, if you're not aware, on the Spanish pandemic flu. And his findings, and I read it, it was published in many medical journals, that he believed that the masks that were worn actually compounded the pandemic and made it 1,000 times worse.
Sure.
But now you use his findings against anybody. Well, now I went on there tonight. Well, now there's fact checkers saying he never said it. So they're totally twisting this around. And
these are the same people, these fact checkers, that will give you a picture of fire and tell you it's ice. So I don't put a lot of faith in these guys. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
But let me tell you something additionally. We have the Constitution, so there cannot be no federal, no state, no local, no municipal, in terms of the mandate.
Right.
A mask mandate, because I have a right, my constitutional right says I don't have to.
Correct.
So when this adjective, how can you accommodate, like Rob said, my situation, which is the situation of millions, is how you're going to accommodate to me to provide the services that I am entitled to? Government services, police, fire department, the trash. I mean, how am I going to pay my bill? I can't go to the building and pay my water bill because I don't have a mask? Really? Come on, what, they're going to come outside in the middle of the road? Hey.
Well, and when the conversation grows beyond mask mandates and turns into vaccination passports and mandates, how can you participate if you're not in compliance with those? So this is an important point in time to be able to challenge the actual system. Going back to what Rob said, you can see in his face, he said, you can see in my face. Unfortunately, publicly, we on the outside that were not in that room tonight, we were unable to see your faces because the city of Ripon, once again, chose not to stream this moment. tonight live on their YouTube channel, and I'm going to be interested. I'm going to
Are
be
you saying they normally do stream it live?
It's an outrage.
Yeah, they normally do stream it live. It's interesting that last month, the September 14th, where this policy was approved, was not streamed live. In fact, it was uploaded a day later as a premiere video, which could mean, to be perfectly transparent, they could have edited whatever they wanted out of that meeting. I'm not saying that they did or that they didn't, but the reality is, without it being streamed live, that could happen. So I'm going to be very curious tonight whether or not technical difficulties appear within the next 24 hours.
And you are right, AJ, because September 14 was real time and it was not recorded.
Correct.
So what, 24 hours later, I can cut here, there, paste, do whatever I want, edit it here, there, you know.
It was uploaded to YouTube an entire day later, so anything can happen in that day. The point is, they have no problem streaming Ripon High School or Ripon College football. They have no problem live streaming historic preservation meetings. They've had no problem in the past live streaming city council meetings. But yet, last September 14th, last council meeting, second Tuesday, and tonight were not streamed live.
And this is very harmful to our republic or democracy or whatever you want to call it, to our nation, this lack of transparency, because we're looking at a very small sample here. One little town in Wisconsin, mind you, a really awesome town in Wisconsin, but one little town just the same. This is going on across the entire nation. If this says anything about what's going on, I mean, this, again, tonight went really well. But you've got these going across the nation in all these city council meetings. They're trying to push these same agendas and trying to do it behind the people's back because they know they don't have the people's approval to do half the stuff they're trying to do.
Exactly.
There you go. That's what it is. My grandma used to say, all we need is one button for the dress. They're all the same. It's a conspiracy. They're doing the same thing, and they start doing these little small towns, and we don't protect them.
Yeah.
It's going to be happening slowly, surely, and progressively.
And another reason it's so important we stand up and say something now. It's the boiling frog concept, as we all know. Oh, it's just a little bit. We remember 14 days to flatten the curve. What are we at, 900 now? I've been lost count.
Unbelievable. Guys,
yes, I rest my case there. 900 something and counting, right?
Yes, you did amazing. That music means we've come to the end of this particular broadcast tonight.
Okay.
Thank you, Orlando Rabbit, Z Rabbit, and Rob Rabbit on the ground in Ripon, Wisconsin. Top hats off, guys.
You, gentlemen. I salute you.
Thanks, gentlemen. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you. Wow, Jerry, what a fun improv show, huh?
Absolutely. We have got to do this more often. We need the transparency. This is absolutely important to the way our system works, to have this type of forum at least available, since they don't want to provide one that is necessary they're supposed to provide to begin with.
I absolutely agree. I believe we are in watchdog territory at this point.
What journalism was meant to do. I remember a time when the journalists were the government's watchdogs, not the lapdogs. It was time the watchdog comes back to journalism, even if we're the only one that get to bring it. We will be the animals that are tearing into it, by golly.
And we did it crude as could be. I mean, we were as closely connected to the live meeting as we could be tonight. Unfortunately, the city funds weren't properly used because somebody wasn't on duty to push live stream tonight on their YouTube channel. I wonder why. I'm curious. Do you think the edited version might take these gentlemen out of the mix tonight?
Or perhaps they'll minimize the amount of questions or just remove questions they didn't like, or
perhaps
the one the public to think about. Or, the common sense questions.
The common sense questions. Or perhaps they will put the entire thing in its entirety and they know they lost. already.
We can only hope.
I
Right?
have no idea. It was definitely a fun night. We're going to do this
Absolutely.
again at the next city council meeting for Ripon, Wisconsin, which is the second Tuesday of every month and the fourth Monday of every month. Our new series, Common Sense Council, takes to the airwaves. My top hat's off to you, Jerry. Thanks for sharing the night with me.
My pleasure, sir. My top head's off to you for having me on. And my top head's off to our amazing chat over here. Alva Yarder, JoJo's General Purpose, Sandy B. and Terry Taggart, very fellow local Wisconsin. Also, everybody listening on Ripon Common Sense Radio, we appreciate you having an ear for the other side.
Speaking of ears for the other side, Ripon is no different than your community. I encourage you to check out your local city council website, download your agendas and minutes, start paying attention to the conversations taking place in your backyard, because that just makes common sense. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Top hats off to all of you for paying attention. We'll be back again Wednesday night while you howl in another state of mystery, Jerry.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It is the state of Iowa. I look forward to seeing you guys in 2 nights.
Until then, take care of yourselves and each other.